Welcome to MUFON Midwest, where we discuss some of the most interesting UFO, UAP sightings in the heartland. MUFON field investigators and eyewitnesses share their amazing experiences with the public on this podcast. And now, here's your host for MUFON Midwest, Margie K.
Welcome to the program, everyone. I'm Margie K, and this is MUFON Midwest. This evening, we have a good show for you with one of our field investigators in the central region, actually Kansas. Mike McCord has been a field investigator for the Kansas Chapter of MUFON since 2012. He's had a lifelong interest in the strange and unusual, including UFOs. At age 12, he became a member of the National Investigations Committee on Aerial Phenomenon, otherwise known as NICAP. In addition to investigating over 100 cases, he's had a number of personal sightings as well. And welcome to the program, Mike.
Well, thank you, Margie, and what an honor and a privilege to have me on your show. I really appreciate it.
Well, thank you so much for joining me in some of our conversations. And of course, what you have sent me recently, I realize that you are definitely a UFO magnet.
I don't know how some of us got so lucky, but it seems that way.
This is true. This is true. And so we're going to discuss a little bit of that tonight. We do want to talk about some of your more interesting cases that you've investigated, but I'd really like to start with, how did you get interested in the subject?
Well, I'm not sure myself, other than that I've always had an interest in the strange and unusual all my life. I'm from Nebraska, from a little town up there, and it was very much that was never on anybody's radar to talk about such things. But I don't know, other than that I've always been curious about anything, whether it's quantum mechanics, UFOs, Bigfoot, ghosts, and I've had so many experiences myself. Maybe it's just because I'm open to it, I don't know, but it's just always been something that's fascinated me.
Well, you've had a few experiences yourself, or quite a few. What would be your first UFO sighting? What happened there?
Well, the first UFO sighting that I had, it would have been probably in, I'm not even sure of the year, I lived in Grand Island, Nebraska, and we were coming home, my family and I, and had two young sons, back to our hometown in Nelson. And we came over this hill just south of Hastings, and I saw this huge bank of lights that I thought was an airliner. And so we went down and crossed the Little Blue River, and just as we got to the other side, I looked to my right, and my oldest son saw it, and there was three lights in a triangular shape just within 100 yards of us, and it passed. Then it passed right over behind us. I wish, and that's all I can say. I wish I would have stopped, but maybe it's better I didn't. But that was the first of several that I've had. A number of, I think 9 altogether that I've had. I can't hear you, Margie.
Sorry about that. Let's talk about some of those. I suppose what we should do is maybe talk about the sighting you had outside an airplane one time.
Yeah, that was interesting. I mean, again, it's things this has happened several times in my life. Well, a few years ago, I went on a tour of Peru and Bolivia with Hugh Newman and Brian Forrester and some really well-known people to look at some of these strange sites that can't be explained, like Pumapunku and places like that. Well, anyway, after their tour ended, I was coming back on the plane, and we were maybe, I'm guessing, 30 minutes out of Cusco, and there were just some really beautiful, cumulus clouds outside the window of where I was sitting. So I just took 2 pictures in a row, just bang, bang. Now that's in Maxwell. That's the Maxwell UFO. Oh, but anyway, so in the first one, if you look underneath the wing, just right underneath it, you can see a dot, see a little object. And then the next picture was taken simultaneously, and it's a little further. You can see it. You can see it. And that, again, we were moving at 500 miles an hour. So here's this object that I had no idea, and that was the last thing on my mind to take this picture. And it just makes me wonder how many times or how often these things are around us that we can't see. Again, I have no explanation other than that's what the picture shows. There was something there. I don't know what it was.
So you did not see that with the naked eye. But
nope.
The camera, as it often does, captures a UFO, and that's a pretty darn good picture. There's definitely an object there.
Yeah, I'm guessing, around 30,000 feet up in the air, so it couldn't have possibly been a bird or anything like that.
Or a balloon.
Balloon, right.
Well, unless it was a gigantic weather balloon. But yeah, that happens so often. People, even some people going back through old photos, from when they were kids and stuff, and they'll suddenly see something. And like, I don't remember seeing that. There, and things will appear on film because, of course, the camera gets more of the light spectrum than we can see with the human eye. What are some of the other encounters that you've had? Well,
there's been a lot of them. I mean, I'll tell you two real quickly, two strange ones. This was maybe around 2014 or so. My friend and I, we were sitting I live in Olathe, and we were sitting out back in my lawn chair, in my chairs way in the back of my yard. And there's just a little bit of patch of sky above us. So we were sitting there about 5:30 in the afternoon, and suddenly this orb, I'd say maybe the size of a soccer ball or a basketball, went right, and there was just a tiny bit of sliver of sky that we could even see, but it went right over the top of us. I'm guessing no more than 50 feet in the air. And it was going real slow. It was like a dull, dark, object. And there was a little bit of a mist coming out of the bottom of it, and it just went right over us and disappeared. And of course, there's been a lot of reports of orbs from baseball size to bigger ones, but I saw this, and I have absolutely no explanation what that could have been. The other one that comes to my mind was in 2017 during the Perseid meteor shower. And it was about 9:30 at night. So I decided, I'll go outside. Maybe I'll see a meteorite or a meteor. So I went outside of my house, turned around and looked up. And the second I looked up, I saw a camera flash. There was two little stars. And I thought, oh, wow, maybe there's a meteor coming, right directly at me. So I kept watching it. And after maybe 30 seconds, there was a second flash. And then after another 15 seconds, it just literally shot to the southwest. I mean, literally shot so fast, I couldn't even follow with my eyes hardly. I was amazed, but I thought, well, possibly it was still a meteorite, but I knew there was a second little object. So I kept watching this other little object, and after about another, I'm not sure how long, minute or so, it suddenly made a slowly move to my left, did a U-turn, and literally shot so fast across the sky, your optical nerve couldn't hardly follow it. So as far as I know, meteorites don't make U-turns.
No, I don't think they do. And what interests me, of course, that is amazing what you saw. But you said this thing was emitting some kind of mist.
Yeah.
And this is not the first time I've heard that. Other people have seen that as well. Do you remember what color that mist was?
No, it was just like a vaporless. And the funny thing is, if it was like, say, a normal propulsion, it would be coming out the back. But this was coming out of the bottom. And I don't really recall, other than it looked like vapor coming out of the bottom of it. I wouldn't have seen it if I hadn't seen the sky behind it.
How far away were you from the object?
I'm guessing no more than 50 feet.
That's close.
I think in my younger days, I might have been able to hit it with a baseball. It was that low. But the question is why, out of every possible area of the sky, we could only see a tiny little sliver because there were trees. So I really, in the same way with the ones during the Perseid meteor shower, I really think they were aware of me. And I've had other ones too. Like I had another one, long story, but it was even more amazing when I was working in Kansas City, Kansas, where these things appeared to me and responded to me. So they're aware of us, and I don't, for what reason, I'm not sure.
Okay, well, you just piqued my interest, so we've got to know about the Kansas City, Kansas case. Do tell.
Well, I sent this in, and you might even recall it. I sent this into MUFON. I was working it late, as I always did, in my office, which was near the downtown airport. And so I was about 6 o'clock, and I was still working. And I heard this tremendous roar, and then in a second one, I went to the window and looked out. What I learned later, it was two F-16s that were taking off from the downtown airport. And I didn't know that till later. But so I was just looking out the window, looking east in a good view of downtown Kansas City, when I saw a triangle, and it was just a perfect triangle, and it was moving from maybe where the casino is over to the east there. It went right over the top of the building and just disappeared. It was a perfect triangle. Well, I was, of course, amazed at that, but then I had to go to my meeting, so I went downstairs, went out to my car, and when I got out to the car in the parking, this was like just right at the confluence of the Missouri and the Kansas rivers, I saw a little light, probably over near where the Crossroads District was. The second I looked at this little light, it just rocketed right over the top of me, stopped, and made a left-hand turn and stopped there. And so I was like, whoa, what's this? But I looked, and then I saw a second light. And after the second I saw it, it came and did the same thing right above me. And then it happened a third time. A third little light came over the top of me, and they were like around me. And by then I was freaked out. So I said, I better get out of here while the getting's good. So I got in the car and left. But there again, in all three cases of these, and there's even a fourth, I won't when I climb Mount Elbert, but they're there. And for what purpose, I don't know why, but I did see those things.
It seems that you are one of the people that UFOs are interested in. Have you had any close encounters or encounters with ETs where you have actually seen an extraterrestrial?
No, I haven't. I did have one case. I think we talked about it before we got on the air, where I was driving around with my dad's old pickup around where I grew up in Nebraska, and I was down in a kind of a spooky old road. So just for the heck of it, I took a picture of this road and the gloom, and then I took a second one. And the first one was normal, and the second there was a gigantic orb right beside me. It was easily about the size of a medicine ball. But that's the closest I've had. And there again, I think some of these things may be natural objects, and others may be fairies. I don't know what it would be, gremlins, and then ETs. Yeah, there's the first picture that was just this old road. And then if you have the second one, and there's the second one. This was taken 1 second apart. So I don't know.
That reminds me of the Joplin spook light. I mean, it looks like a road like that with trees around.
And I've seen that too. I went down there one time and I actually saw that as well.
What color was it when you saw it?
Well, you know what it looked like? I'm from a little town with a country kid in a way, but it looked, if you remember the old mercury vapor farm lights, just a little yellow light. And when I first got there, I was working for the Resolution Trust at the time, and this kid told me where to go. And I thought it was what I thought it was a farm light. So I drove down this creepy old road. It was about 1 a.m, thinking I'd come to a farm. And I got to the end of the road, and there was no farm. And I turned around and I saw it again, this time to the east of me. And again, I drove back through it, and I never came to it. I went down through a third time, and I thought I'd turned on the lights on the park, and I thought I'd see this thing, and I never did. But that's been seen almost nightly for 100 years. And it's really well known. It's in an area called the Spooksville Triangle. And I did quite a bit of research when I was doing the Columbus case. And this has been investigated even by the National Ocean NOAA, and nobody has an explanation for it, but it's been seen many, many times.
Yeah, I actually think the history goes back further than 100 years, before cars.
So, right, you do.
So some people try to say that it's car lights, but they've been seeing it since before cars were even invented. And the thing is that of course, the government has been out there. Multiple researchers been out there. I've been out there several times myself. I know a man who went out there 200 times, an investigator.
Wow.
And he saw the light would appear almost every time, not all the time. And it's always in the distance. And then sometimes two lights appear. One of the nights I was there, we saw two.
Wow.
One and then a smaller one underneath it. And in some cases, the light has been seen inside people's houses that are near there in that area. It'll just come in the house and it'll be either a golden orb or a blue orb and just come through the wall, go around the house, and then go out the other side. I mean, it's just really strange. And as people approach it, here's the thing, it disappears. But if you back up, then you can see it again. So nobody can get close enough to touch it. That has never happened, as far as I know. It's just one of those really anomalous, strange things. Okay, we are going to talk about some of your really good cases, but are there any other occurrences that happened to you that you want to talk about?
Well, there's a number of them. None that the only other one again where somebody took a picture of me is when I had a really bad spinal injury and was left paralyzed, and they gave me a 10% chance of ever walking again. Well, that's another whole story, but I overcame the paralysis, and 30 months later I climbed Mount Elbert, which is the highest mountain in Colorado. So anyway, with my sons, that was quite a whole episode of my life. But about halfway up the mountain, I don't think I sent you this picture, but my son took a picture of me with the mountain in the background, and right above me, maybe a mile away, was another object about the same size as the one in the airplane coming back from Peru. And again, nobody noticed this till later. My brother actually pointed it out to me, but there again, there was something in the air behind me. And so that's 3 times pictures that either I took or that others took, that there was another one was at the Maxwell Wildlife Preserve near Canton. I took a picture of the sky because it was a pretty sky in the morning. We were looking at buffalo and so forth. And lo and behold, there was a flying saucer in the picture. It was even shaded on the far side of the sun. And I think I sent you that picture as well. So there's all these, it makes you just wonder how many more times they're around us and we're not aware of them.
Oh, it does. I'm kind of thinking they're there all the time, and you mentioned earlier about the flash before you saw an object during the meteor shower. A lot of us are thinking, and I want your thoughts on this, that is a portal opening, the flash. What do you think?
Well, I don't know. In my case, there was already 2 little stars there. So and it did flash first. I thought it was more a way of getting my attention, at least in my case. I did have a case, and this, I sent you the summary of it, but a case where a guy, he was a security guard over by the Platoma auto plant. And he sent in a report saying that one morning he and his coworker saw this large cigar-shaped object, and this was right over the river in Kansas City, Kansas. And he said it moved to his right, and he said there was a series of windows, and they said the windows disappeared one at a time, just like it was going through a doorway. And so when you mentioned portals, that certainly sounds like he was going into one.
It does sound like it. Yeah. Now I found this. Is this?
That's an interesting picture. This was taken by a witness who sent in a case. She worked in Lenexa, Kansas, and she was going to work one morning. And this was as she pulled into the parking lot, she saw this triangular-shaped object. So she took 2 pictures of it. I actually photo enhanced this so you can see it better, but there's a triangle. This would have been right over Overland Park, essentially. And she said she took 2 pictures, and she got out of her car to take a third, and it was gone. She said there was no sound, and it didn't move, but the picture kind of speaks for itself.
Yeah. It's that sunset behind it is striking too.
was actually in the morning when it was the sun coming up. But yeah, but it was pretty clear.
So you've done over 100 investigations. Out of those, how many would you say are unexplained or unknown objects?
Gosh, I don't know. I've never really put a percentage. I would say, in my experience, probably the majority of would be unexplained. There were some that you couldn't. I mean, it couldn't be explained. But I think with some of the advances MUFON has made with things like the stellarium, star map, and also flight tracker, we can kind of pinpoint if there was a natural object in the air in that area at the time, or a conventional aircraft. And in many cases, there isn't. I would say in my case, at least half the time, at least I couldn't explain them.
There are some people like you that continue to have experiences and see strange things or get photos of things they didn't see, but they're obviously there. Why is it that some people have these types of experiences and have them continually throughout their lives, and then another person will have absolutely nothing? They'll never see anything.
Yeah, in my opinion, I think it's just a matter of being open to it. When I had the spinal injury, that was kind of a reset button in my life. And I was an appraiser at the time, and I was taking pictures of comparables and subjects and so forth. And every now and then these orbs would appear in the pictures, and they'd have, structure in them. One looked like the moon or a pizza. And I've had so many paranormal experiences, I've totally lost track of it, including precognitive dreams. Whether it's DNA or just being open to the subject, I don't know. But I do know one thing is that after my injury and I started seeing these things, they started getting really out of control. So I called in an exorcist, and he said these things were around me because when somebody pushed me down the stairs, and I felt that I had opened the door too wide. So I consciously closed that door, and things didn't happen as often. So my message is, if these things happen and you don't want them to happen, you are in control. You can either let it happen or not. Maybe not totally, but I don't know what the reason is, but I was selected for some reason, and I certainly know you are, and your friends have you too.
Yeah, you mentioned being pushed down the stairs. I also had that experience and had a back injury from it as well. I could feel the hands on my back. Did you feel that as well?
No, I didn't. But when I landed on the floor, I didn't even know what had happened. When my wife came downstairs, the first words out of my mouth were, and I don't even know why I said the poltergeist pushed me.
Oh, okay.
So I think, because there had been things going on in the house, but I didn't feel anything. But I had never done that before in my life. All I know is it broke my neck and hurt my spinal cord, and they gave me a small chance of ever walking again. And it ended up being a blessing in my life. It really did. And I think because of it, I think it opened up the portal, or whatever you want to call it, to some of these events.
Okay. All right. Well, I'll tell you what, let's go ahead and take our break, and we'll be back right after these messages.
How do we make the intangible tangible? How do we come to an understanding of a phenomenon when so much information is concocted or misreported and circulated on the internet? How do we find clarity, not only in understanding individual UFO cases, but also the big picture? My name is David Marler. I've been an investigator, researcher, author, and lecturer on the UFO subject for over 35 years. I've always anchored my research in what was meticulously reported and documented regarding UFO incidents. I never succumbed to conspiracy theories. I never relied on second or third-hand reporting. I never let belief lead me. Rather, I've taken a data-driven approach towards the subject, predicated on the original, contemporaneous sources of information. Now, in conjunction with the National UFO Historical Record Center, the largest UFO archive ever assembled in the United States, I am working with a dedicated team who shares this approach and vision. Now, more than ever, we need credible material presented on the UFO subject. As we work through our vast archive, we will bring you the original source materials related to historic UFO cases. Our archive is comprised of thousands of case files derived from some of the earliest UFO investigative and research organizations, APRO, NICAP, UFOs, and many others. Some of these are familiar cases, but the majority have never been shared or discussed publicly before, until now. Together with my colleagues, who are some of the leading historians in the United States on the UFO subject, we look to be a credible voice for the field. Everything we present is backed up by the original military or civilian UFO reports, the original audio tapes, the original correspondence, the original news clippings, and original photos. All of these are housed at the National UFO Historical Record Center, where they can be accessed by visitors. All of these materials we look to share with you, our audience, in our series, UFOs in Retrospect.
And we are back with MUFON Midwest. I'm your host, Margie Kay, and we are speaking with Mr. Mike McCord, field investigator from Kansas. And Mike, there's a case that involved a tornado, and this was near Garden City, Kansas. There is something about UFOs and tornadoes, and I know when the Joplin tornado hit, and they had actually this was all over the news for the whole day. We knew it was coming. There were tornadoes coming through Oklahoma, and watching the news, and I saw in real time from the news chopper the tornado in the distance and UFOs going in and out of it. And that has happened a lot. There are witnesses who have seen this sort of thing. What do you think they're doing going in and out of tornadoes?
Gosh, I, like you, Margie, I'm not sure, other than that it could be a number of things. It could have been just curiosity. Maybe they're doing scientific research on our weather systems. Maybe they're drawing energy, because I know it happens around volcanoes too. And they've even been reported around the sun. So maybe in some ways they're recharging their battery, so to speak. I really don't know, but I know you're right. There's been a number of cases like that. And you mentioned Joplin. There also were angels seen. I mean, so there's a paranormal world. There is an ET world. I think there's so much more that we don't know. We probably couldn't even begin to imagine what's out there.
That is true. And once you go in the rabbit hole, you realize there's no end to it.
How far down the rabbit hole do you want to go?
Yeah. Well, here is a picture of that tornado in Garden City. When was this?
This was around 2017, and I have the man's report right here. I can just read it to you. He said that he was a tornado chaser. Okay. I think his name is at the bottom there, but he said the witness was a photographer, and he was a storm chaser. He stated, "I was storm chasing and did not notice this with my naked eye, but after looking at the picture, I noticed that there was an object in front of the tornado. I have pictures to share, a raw file as well. I'm not sure what it is. I do not think it's a lens artifact, water spot, plane or debris or bird. The object does not appear in the frame right before or after the one that you're seeing now." And this is his picture, and it's blown up. Pretty dramatic.
It is dramatic. You can see the sunlight on it, the shadow behind it. It's obviously an object. And then the close-up gets a little grainy, but it does let you know that there's something there.
Mm-hmm.
Have you ever done any other cases like that with tornadoes?
No, I haven't.
Okay. And we've got this case. What is this?
Oh, well, this was a lady. This was a lady that had a whole number of experiences in her life. It's quite a complicated case. Won't go into it all, but she was abducted. This was the only abduction case I've had. They followed her and her family for all of her entire life. This was taken when her and her friend were driving down near Wichita. And it's really hard to see in this picture, but there was a jellyfish. This is a whole other genre of UAPs. If you can look real closely, you can see a blue amorphous thing right in the middle of the frame, right above the fence line. And this was she called it a jellyfish. She drew a drawing of this as well. But this is another whole thing that makes, there's her drawing. And this is where, in my opinion, that sometimes these things may be actually living organisms that live high in the atmosphere. They may not be UAP, extraterrestrial at all, because you see them change shape. They morph into different things. And this was she called it a jellyfish.
Yeah, it's maybe the top part of it might resemble a jellyfish. I don't think looks like any of those other jellyfish UFOs that have been reported. But yeah, you can see a disc, like a different color there. It looks kind of purple to me. Blue in the photo. Now, did she see that with the naked eye first?
I believe she did. Yes, I did. This was I haven't really researched that case recently, but she had a number of experiences that came from a military background. You'll notice a lot of times people that see these things also have a military background with them. And this was a case where that was true. But
yeah,
she said, again, one of those people they're attracted to.
So you said she's had a number of sightings.
Yeah, she had a number. I have really looked at it recently, but and a clear abduction that I know Nancy D'Souza, who's our state director, and I also investigated together that had very suspiciously seemed like an abduction.
Can you remember any details from that case?
No, only that she was at the time she was living in, I think it was New Jersey, I believe, and they were in a motel, and they were actually moving to Kansas. She lived out by Garden City too, I think now, but she woke up in the morning. She had these horrible nightmares, and when she woke up, there was a bunch of strange markings in a area on her thigh that she couldn't explain how it got there. And she was tormented by these visions, but we asked her if she would like to get hypnotized to maybe learn more, but she said, I don't want to go there. I really don't want to know what happened. But this was how these things happened to her. She didn't know.
Yeah, some people are very curious about that, and some people just don't want to know anymore.
Mm-hmm.
That's understandable. Have you ever been hypnotized?
No, I haven't, but I did have, this gets into a whole other area. I did have a number of things going on that I couldn't explain. I would hear a tingling in my ear, and then when I said stop, it would stop. And that did it. Finally, I went to a doctor, and he said, well, you're either haunted or you got a ghost inside you. so I said, well, that explains why I'm so weird. So I went to a lady. She was actually a demonologist. She's now moved away, but she did a reading on me, and she told me that I had been abducted, and that I still had an alien brother with me who was kind of making my life difficult. So I have no recollection other than I know that this tingling would happen in my ear, and if I said stop, it would stop, and two doctors couldn't explain
it. A lot of us get that. A lot of us have that. The tones in the ear and stuff. Yeah,
and even to this day, sometimes I do. But I have no idea what's going on. But it sure was annoying.
We've got this picture What is this?
Well, this was, and I didn't investigate. This was taken near McCord Junction, Nebraska, and it was around 2022. My daughter-in-law sent me this picture. Like I say, I can't vouch for anything other than that this was on. She found it on, it might have been on Facebook, and it's clear, looks like a flying saucer to me.
Okay, yeah. There's Nebraska. That's a hot spot for UFOs too.
Yeah.
Lots of flat land and lots of big sky to look at. So
right.
You can see the whole sky. It's a good sky watching place, as is Kansas for that matter.
Yep.
Once you get out into central Kansas. Why do you think it is that some people don't report seeing UFOs?
Well, I think there's still a stigma out there that they'll be laughed at, and same with paranormal events. I've found a lot of times you'll mention things to somebody, and they'll open up and they'll tell you things. So I think it's probably just afraid, or maybe just indifference. I know in my own family, every one of our members of my own family have had experiences too, and none of that was reported. I don't know the percentage, but I think the cases that are reported to MUFON are just a fraction of what's out there, what people are seeing.
Yeah, I have to agree with you on that part. What are some of the other cases, other things that you have witnessed that we can discuss?
Well, I think there's been 2 or 3 of them. I don't know which one to choose from. What kind of the one that was one of the most interesting cases I had was down in Columbus, Kansas. And this is in an area that's called the Spooksville Triangle. And it runs from Columbus, Kansas to Joplin to Miami, Oklahoma. And this includes Spooklight Road too. Mm-hmm. But a lot of strange things have been reported for many, many years. So this young man put in a report, and he had so many things, it was just literally amazing. So I went down and visited. I mean, I have a summary of it right here. He saw UAPs in the sky. He saw a UFO land near a house, hover near a house near his. Saw balls of light. Saw streaks. A beam of light came between him and a friend one time while they were sitting on the patio. There was 20 minutes of missing time one time when he and his friend were out. I think they were coyote hunting, he said. And just any number of things. So I went down and I said, well, I got to see this for myself. So I sat out on his porch, talked to him and his wife. He had paranormal things going on, and he had a video camera where he had filmed a lot of this stuff. So I wasn't able to send him to you, but I sat out there for several hours in the evening and just took pictures myself. And I caught a number of things. There were streaks, there were orbs. I mean, in the dark that they weren't insects. So I sent them into MUFON, and I think it was Dr. McCord at the time. He couldn't explain them. One that really stuck out at me, and I've not been able to capture it and make a picture of it, but there was a little light far off into these forests about a half a mile away. So first I missed it, but I saw this little light, so I enlarged it on my computer. And when I did, there was an amorphous cloud, if you call it, and a face was coming out of it. For all the world like an alien coming out of the face of this object. So this happens a lot around the Columbus area, Joplin, Miami. That's why they call it the Spooksville Triangle. That to me was, in addition to his cases, that the things he had told me myself, it was just really a weird case. And I had 2 others where a guy claimed they could call UFOs, one in Norton and one in Wichita. So I said, well, I got to see this for myself. So this guy claimed he could do it. He claimed first he put in the report saying he had little aliens in a tiny little alien ship following him by his car going from Wichita up to Norton. And it really freaked me. He sent me a video. I couldn't quite confirm it, but he was very, very adamant about this. So I went out there and I said, okay, well, call some UFOs for me. So we sat out on his patio with me and his neighbor friend and his 2 little sons. And so we sat there for about 10 minutes. This was, I think it was in October of 2020, 4, I believe. And I had obviously I checked with Flight Tracker and Solarium to see if there's any other objects at the time. But after about 10 minutes, I didn't see anything. But suddenly his friend and his son said, "Oh gosh, look at right there! I saw something," and I didn't see anything. So I began to think, well, maybe this was was kind of a setup. But finally they said, "Well, look," they put it exactly. Now look right here in the sky, and I did, and I saw an object appear. And it moved about 2 degrees to the southeast and then disappeared. And there was no explanation for that. So I can confirm that I couldn't explain it. Then just recently, one of my last cases was down in Wichita where a man used a laser beam. And he had the same thing. He said they were like attracted to the laser light. So I went down there, had a long talk with him, and then he and his wife and I went out there. And he had a real high-powered binoculars, and he was, flashing his laser. And he said, "Oh, I see this, and I see that, and everything." And I had a real much weaker binoculars, and I couldn't see anything. But then I don't know at what point, about 30 minutes into the viewing, I saw a light appear about the size of Venus, and very bright. And it moved from approximately 2 o'clock to 4 o'clock from the northeast to southwest. It stopped and made a left-hand turn, went a short distance, and disappeared. And there again, I couldn't explain that, but these are 3 things that these guys claimed they could call them in, kind of like Chris Bledsoe can do. And all I know is on 3 occasions I saw things that I couldn't explain.
It does seem like the occupants of the UFOs are telepathic, because the CE5 work that I've done, every time we do it, UFOs show up. They're 100%. And then there's that, and then there's also the UAP dog whistle, which we've tried, and that worked as well. Have you tried anything like that?
No, I never heard of that one.
Okay. Yeah, you'll have to come to our Kansas City meeting sometime.
Okay, I'll make a point of that, doing that.
We'll be doing it. We do once a year. We do a CE5. So, yeah, there's some strange stuff going on out there. Do you think that sightings are increasing now?
Well, they seem to be. I talked to Nancy, our director, recently, and she said she thinks so too. And she also said that there seems to be more cases where they either come on demand, or whenever you have the intention of seeing them, they appear, and they seem to be increasing. I'm still not sure whether they're all extraterrestrials or whether they're, paranormal or whatever, or living organisms. But according to Nancy, these kinds of cases definitely are on the increase.
Yeah, I agree. I think so. At least the reports are. More people are reporting now. Do you think that's because the government said, yeah, there's something out there we don't understand?
I think so too. Yeah, I think they're slowly revealing these things, maybe to kind of acclimate the public that this thing is real and it isn't all poo-poo like it's been made out to be. But yeah, I think people are becoming much more aware of it. And I don't know, I keep hearing stories there's going to be a big disclosure soon. I don't know about that, but I do think there's an above top secret military division that is involved with this. As you probably know, recently when President Trump he said he was going to open up these files, suddenly thousands of files disappeared within hours. And at least 3, and I've heard maybe 4 people that were really on the inside of this whole UFO situation have disappeared, including a former general and his assistant, and now I heard a 3rd. And these people are just disappearing. So I think somebody wants to make sure we never hear the full story.
That is scary. That is really scary. And I know there have been some people in MUFON who have been injured by unseen forces or other means of attack. And we can't figure out what it is or who it is. That's actually doing that, if it's a government or something else. What do you think about these attacks?
I don't know what to make of them, Margie. I know Stephen, I think it's Stephen Greer, who I'm sure you're aware of. He reported that I think it was in 2023 that the whistleblower said that he was with the military and they were out investigating a site, and they were suddenly a group of people that were also military but didn't identify themselves, threatened them that they would be beat them up if they wouldn't do that. And then recently, I just actually read today at Skinwalker Ranch that under Bob Bigelow, his scientists were investigating something, and a group of unidentified military people came and told them to stop, and they wouldn't, and they beat them up. So there's a group that is, and that's just recently on. I just heard that there's a group out there that is damn determined, and you better stay away from this house.
Mm-hmm. Have you ever had encounters with MIBs, or have any of your witnesses?
No, but I haven't. I've had two cases where ladies had claimed to have relationships with ETs.
Oh, okay. That's a new one.
Well, yeah, and I don't know what to say. There was one who had this relationship with a invisible alien, and another one that I knew that claimed that she was in the car with this person who looked at her and she knew he was an alien, and they had this, I don't know if it was sexual or whatever, but relationship with him for a long time, and she was very secretive and protective of him. I don't even know what to make of those kind of cases, but you hear so many stories. How are you going to know? I mean, unless I did a full psychological examination or had him hypnotized. I'm not a psychologist and don't have the means to do that. I mean, all I know, they can sit there and look you straight in the eye and tell you these things just as rational as you and me talking. Mm-hmm. And you just have to take it or leave it.
There have been, a number of different types of ETs. What are all the different types that your witnesses have said that they've seen?
Well, I had a case, one that was a MUFON investigation, and one that I just heard with the group that a lady was coming home from Spring Hill one time. She lived in Spring Hill, and she was working, I think, in Olathe. And on the way home, she said a light followed her down the road to outside of her house. I don't know where she lived, on the outskirts there of Spring Hill. And so she went in the house and went to bed, and said later in the, I don't know what time, late in early morning, she had got up to get a drink of water. So she went to the kitchen to get a drink, and she said there was a clothesline out back with her mom's quilt over it. And she said as she was looking at it, an alien stepped out from behind the quilt, and she said it was just a classic gray. And she said they made mental contact, and she said it wanted to come in the house, but she said, no, I don't want you to do that. It was not threatening or harmful. And so she went in the house, and then she forgot about it until for some, and that happens too, this amazing experience, she forgot about it for years. So there was that case, and then there was another case, and I was just with a group, and I happened to mention I was with MUFON, and this lady said, well, I didn't know her, but she said, I used to have a paper route, and she lived over on the east side of town, and she said one morning, it was very early in the morning, I was on my paper route with my car, and it was on a country road, and there was a car up ahead of me, and it stopped, and all of a sudden it just walled out and started throwing gravel and everything, and it went past her just as fast as it could. So she says, well, I kept driving down this road, and I came to, there was an object, there was something, a cryptoid or whatever you want to call it, in the grader ditch. And she said it kind of looked like an alien, and she said she thought it was lost. Whether it was a child, she said it wasn't human, it was naked, it was gray, and kind of looked like your classic, gray. And she said, then I peeled out. All I know, but so those are the two where people had close-up encounters with aliens.
What message do you have to people who have had a UFO sighting? What should they do?
Well, again, Well, one thing I always ask, what other experiences have you had? And you'd be surprised how many have had other experiences. But I guess my message is keep looking up to the sky and keep an open mind and never forget that you're in control of these situations. I mean, again, like with the lady in Spring Hill, when it said it wanted to come closer, and she said no, and it didn't. It honored that. So in my experience, I've never had someone come and really force themselves upon the person. Now, there are others that have had, but be open-minded, keep your eyes to the sky, and remember you're in control.
And of course, report to MUFON.
Absolutely, and report to MUFON, absolutely.
Yeah, and we also like people to join MUFON as members, and there's some perks with that. But then we also need field investigators as well to do what you do. How much time do you think you spend working on one investigation, Mike?
Oh, it's pretty extensive. And again, I'm not nearly as advanced as you are and some of the EFT members are, so I've never gotten to really good cases, but I easily spend a week on it, because to check all the different angles that MUFON requires, I mean, we look at everything from the latitude to longitude to the weather at the time to other objects in the sky through various means, flight trackers, solarium. We check other cases, other websites, get as much information as we can with them. Usually it takes 2 or 3 times of contact with them. We don't always go out. Probably rarely do we go out, but you can. And it's really, I've really enjoyed it. I'm getting more active again. I was out of it because of so many things going on in my life. But for anybody that has an interest in them, I'd surely encourage them to get a hold of Margie or Nancy D'Souza in Kansas. It's a fascinating hobby, and you'll really expand your mind.
That is true. It is a lot of work, and of course, it's all volunteer. But if you have an interest in it, check it out at MUFON.com. Mike, thank you so much for spending some time with us this evening and talking about some of the things that you saw and some of your witnesses did. I'm hoping that sometime we can get some of your witnesses on with us and maybe see some more videos. And so, if you've got some good cases, let me know, and maybe we'll have you back.
We haven't even talked about the ferries I had one time with a case. Oh. Yeah, there's a lot. There's so many more, but yeah.
Okay, we've got like a minute and a half. Can you tell us a ferry story real quick?
I'll tell you. Well, I don't know if it was ferry or not, but this was a quick case. It's in a little town called Peabody, Kansas, where this family saw these things flitting around a street light. So they went underneath it, and one of them came down to them at their level. She said one flew off into the field. She said it was shy, was the word she used. The other one came down to them at face level and then dissipated into the ground. And this happened 2 times where they had these objects. They were not UFOs. They were living something. I call them, it could be fairies, they could be gnomes, they could be something, elementals. I don't know, but they had these things, and I went and talked to her and the 3 her children that saw this, and they saw these things with their own eyes. So again, there's an unseen world around us.
So maybe they're extraterrestrials. Who knows?
They could be.
All right. Well, we'll be in touch. Thank you so much, Mike.
Well, thank you, Margie. I appreciate you having me on.
All right. Lots of weird stuff happens. If if you're interested in anything weird, get out there and investigate. And if it's UFOs, MUFON is the place to be. All right, folks. We'll see you here again next week. The MUFON Midwest podcast is a production by Unex Media. I'm your host, Margie Kay. The producers are Race Hobbs and Bill Skywatcher. Copyright 2026 by Margie Kay and MUFON. This is the Central Region MUFON podcast, and our website is MUFONCentralRegion.org. If you've had a UFO encounter and would like to be a guest on the program, please contact me at MUFONCentralRegionDIR@gmail.com. To file a UFO report, go to MUFON.com. That's MUFON.com.